on Facebook and YouTube. My name is Martin Asiedu-Dartey. Coming up this evening, members of Parliament be debating controversial human sexual rights and family values bill following its reintroduction by Parliament, private members bill. We'll bring you the very latest regarding this debate which is ongoing in Parliament. And later in the bulletin, evacuation of Ghanaians from South Africa sparks backlash online with growing calls for economic retaliation against South African businesses. Meanwhile, outspoken South African politician Julius Malema questions Ghana's decision to evacuate its citizens. Tonight, we delve into that issue again. Before that, though, let's bring you the news summaries with Grace Hamwa Ajiman. Hello, Grace.
Hi, Martin. Let's begin from just where you ended. An economic freedom fighters leader, Julius Malema, has questioned the timing and approach of Ghana's response to recent tensions involving Ghanaian nationals in South Africa, arguing that it risked escalating an already sensitive situation. Speaking to the press, Mr. Malema said the reaction from Ghana was not necessary at that moment, warning that it could create negative perceptions and deepen divisions. He noted that while emotions were high, diplomatic handling of the situation would have been more appropriate to allow South African authorities space to manage developments on the ground. In a related development, Ghanaian and other African nationals living in Cambodia have been directed to leave the country by May 31, 2026, following a new immigration notice issued by the Cambodian authorities warning of arrest, imprisonment, and heavy financial penalties for overstayers. In an official notice issued by Cambodia's General Department of Immigration under the Ministry of Interior, the royal government of Cambodia announced that a temporary waiver previously granted to African nationals, including citizens of Ghana, Kenya, Cameroon, and Uganda, will officially expire at the end of May. And before I go, the Gamanche Kintakite Kochu II has called for the arrest and prosecution of chiefs allegedly involved in the sale of lands along waterways and other flood-prone areas. He made a call on Thursday during a tour of flood-hit communities following the spillage of the Wager Dam, which has left several homes and shops submerged and forced residents to evacuate their belongings. That's it for the news summaries.
Thank you very much, Grace. Let's settle for the details of our stories now. And we're starting from the House of Parliament, where members in the House are currently debating the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2025, widely known as the Anti-LGBTQ Bill. What we know at the moment is that the concerns being raised by both the minority and the majority has to do with the earlier bill that was passed, which was refused to be signed by former President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. The earlier version expired after former President Nana Akufo-Addo declined to assent to it before Parliament was dissolved, a move that sparked strong criticism from supporters of the bill. There are now growing concerns among some religious and conservative groups over what they describe as delays by the current administration in ensuring the bill is passed and signed into law. The Speaker of Parliament, the Honourable Alban Sumana Bagbin, has since directed the committee handling the bill to expedite work and present it for reading. Let's now cross over to Parliament and get the a fair idea of how the debate is ongoing in the House. And later we'll try and engage our correspondent who has also been following this for us because we can tell that the minority is defending why they thought that the majority is pushing a wrong agenda in terms of blaming former President Akufo-Addo for not signing. But let's join the debate now.
Then we are not going to allow you. If you are not excited about the use of resisted, why are you trying to use it on somebody else? You are claiming that you did not resist.
Honorable members, with all due respect, I was in Parliament as the ranking member when the letter emanating from the Executive Secretary came to the floor of the House. And the content was very clear. The Hansard of this House will bear everybody out. That is a matter of facts.
Unfortunately, you have been drawn into a debate. And Speaker, I do not think that is fair to this side. Speaker, you cannot say for a fact that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo resisted assenting to the bill. If there are legal processes and same had to be followed, Speaker, it does not amount to resistance. The majority leader is finding it offensive for my colleague to say that he resisted for the same bill to be tabled. And Speaker, it doesn't matter. I read, I follow. It does not amount to resistance. Majority leader was the one who resisted. He resisted. And that is factual.
Well, I don't think I am getting into the debate, but just drawing the attention of the House to a matter of facts. Yes, Honorable Roxanne Nelson.
Mr. Speaker, this is a house of records. And I'll show you, my brother, I'll show you the records. Speaker, I have in my hand a letter from the Parliamentary Service.
3FM 92.7, Urban Lifestyle Radio Station.
The 8th Parliament, Mr. Speaker, on 6th January 2025, dissolved with all of its acts, including the LGBTQ bill. And this matter was debated in this House.
Yes.
The Speaker gave a ruling.
That is your view, which is different from the view that he holds.
Mr. Speaker, I'm just agreeing. Mr. Speaker, I agree with your position. That's the point I'm making. I agree with your position that a parliament is dissolved with its acts. And Mr. Speaker, we don't have time, and it's not an intellectual exercise to go into. Indeed, it is established, Mr. Speaker, that parliament, the history and origins of parliaments are convened for a term. And when the parliament is dissolved, it's dissolved with its acts. But the point I'm making, the contention I'm making, Mr. Speaker, is that the majority leader is taking a contrary view. And Mr. Speaker, we're all in this House not too long ago when the majority leader said he takes the legal view and procedural view that the bill as passed by this parliament, which in his view was, let me paraphrase him, the presidency became constructively aware of the bill. When President Mahama was sworn into office, all President Mahama ought to have done by law and procedure was to assent to the bill, according to the majority leader. That is his position. And I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, that you respectfully indicated that there was even a suggestion that a vote of no confidence be passed in President Akufo-Addo pursuant to Article 106.7 because a bill was presented to him by this House and he failed, refused, or neglected to assent to it. I'm saying the person that we should pass a vote of no confidence pursuant to his submission. This is not president.
They can play my voice to you. What I said was that what the president should have done is in Article 106, 7, or 8. And the matter has been debated on this floor. And people are of the view that instead of asking, don't bring the bill to me, he could have accepted the bill, exercised the constitutional function. Can you hear me out? Exercise the constitutional function to assent or not to assent, and use the pendency of the suit as a reason for his inability to assent. But the letter that don't bring the bill was problematic. This was debated on the floor, and people are of the view that such a letter emanating from the presidency must warrant vote of no confidence in the president. That was the debate on the floor. Well, I was not presiding to be called upon to rule on it. I would have done my ruling.
If I may just conclude in a second. In a second. Mr. Speaker, in a second. I conclude by saying that, Mr. Speaker, this matter, in my view, is being adequately settled by the Honorable Majority Leader. Mr. Speaker, the Majority Leader has made it abundantly clear that the President ought to assent to this bill, and therefore all that we are doing, Mr. Speaker, in the view of the majority, is quite unnecessary. And I want to conclude by saying that, Mr. Speaker, the majority rather should apologize to his president. He should be apologizing to President Mahama. He's taking a dramatically contrary view from the view taken by President Mahama. When the Catholic Bishops' Conference paid a courtesy call on President Mahama, the excuse he gave for not passing the LGBTQ bill was the fact that the bill dissolved with the dissolution of the 8th Parliament.
Based on the ruling of the House.
Yes, but his majority leader is on record here and on hazard, making the point that he disagrees with his president. He disagrees with President Mahama. Mr. Speaker, the truth is that the LGBTQ matter is as a political football by our friends from the other side. Some time. And they say vindication the administration. If you vindicate the bill, it's in the womb of time. Bill, who give time, view, some time. Is dramatically different from the administration. They brought back the bill. They brought a bill which I take the view is dramatically different from the bill.
His view is that we should transmit the bill to the president as passed. Is that, but the right we should transmit the bill to the president gave a ruling as passed, which he, but the right honorable speaker, gave a ruling which never mentioned the name of disagrees the with.
Mr. Speaker, we
I've never mentioned the name of the president.
We should apologize to President Akufo-Addo, apologize to President Mahama, apologize to this House, apologize to the Speaker.
Please, can they resume your seat?
The LGBT is not there for politics.
Honorable Jinapo, resume your seat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, unlike you, me, I do not fear to disagree with my president. And my president is such a tolerant president that he has no problem with disagreement. He has no problem with disagreement. You are the ones who argued. Listen to yourself. Please, listen to yourself. You are arguing strenuously that the bill was not presented to the presidency. You are arguing strenuously that the bill was not presented to the presidency. I argued in this House at that time that the bill was presented to the presidency. You had constructively become aware of the bill and that you had written to resist receipt of the bill. Consistent with that argument, I continue to argue that so far as I am concerned, a presidency is a continuum, and therefore, upon the assumption of office, the president inherited the bill. That is my argument. Indeed, listen, indeed, as a majority leader standing here, the day the speaker was to consider the arguments, I argued the same way as I am arguing today. I never changed position. And I never changed position because so far as I was concerned, I was looking for the most expeditious way of the law coming into force. That was my view. That this is the most expeditious way of having the law to come into force. But if we adopted the position that it was never presented and therefore it remained in this House and therefore lapsed with the life of the past Parliament, then we were now going to go and start from the scratch, which meant that the committee, the sponsors will have to go through the motions of our standing orders presented to Speaker. He has to consider it, admit it, now refer it to a committee. And I even caution that I recall that I was a member of the committee that considered it, and it took us close to 3 years. Over 200 public hearings. Every day we came, we were held in the Kofi Annan
auditorium.
DF Annan Auditorium, listening to memorandum after memorandum, interest group after interest group, traveling all over the world. I recall we were invited to Geneva, The Hague, to The Hague, and they confronted us with this bill. I recall that British parliamentarians came here and they met us. I led the then minority side, and all sort of innuendos and veiled threats were presented that if NDC assumed office and we passed a bill like that, did we know the implications for our government if we passed it? And I told them squarely that we will pass it. So, Mr. Speaker, I have been consistent on this matter. And so the attempt to create an impression that there's a problem if I disagree with President John Dramani Mahama. President John Dramani Mahama, I recall, and if the Attorney General were here, he would have confirmed to me that when we're having the debate at the presidency, the president said, me, I'm not a lawyer. You and Ayini, the two of you are lawyers. Go and then argue and resolve this matter and come and advise me as to what to do. Ayini took a view that, so far as he is concerned, the position of the Speaker that the bill had lapsed with this Parliament, was a prevailing legal view. I was of a different view, and I told the President recalls it. But Ayini is his Attorney General, and we brought the debate to the Speaker. The Speaker took a view that the Attorney General is right, and that I'm wrong. But I cannot run away from my legal view. That's why I repeat it all the time.
You see,
that this is my position on the matter.
Members, we all know the position of the majority leader. Therefore, to say that he resisted the bill from being placed on the order paper cannot be factually correct. He wants expeditious means of even getting the bill come into law. So the factual inaccuracy is the reason for which I'm asking the honorable member to withdraw.
Mr. Speaker, respectfully, I would want to be guided. Mr. Speaker, is it a case that, Mr. Speaker, I know that the
Will
rules...
you withdraw or you
Mr. Speaker,
withdraw?
I want to be guided. I want to be guided. Mr. Speaker, the rules and practices of this House rest in your bosom. Is it a case that when an objection is raised, you don't hear the other side, but you immediately ask the person to withdraw? If that is the case, I'll proceed.
Honorable member, you have the floor to speak.
Okay. Mr. Speaker.
You have the floor to speak.
Sure.
And you spoke. The practice of the House is that when you make a statement and your opponent is offended by the statement that you are making, they will throw the statement back to you that, look, you have said ABCD, the member is offended. You understand? So you take a decision, you do the honorable thing that, oh, if you are offended by what I have said, then my statement is withdrawn. That is what we do. But if you insist that you will not withdraw, you can enable me to take decision on that.
Well, Mr. Speaker, very respectfully, let me make a few points for your consideration. Mr. Speaker, from the submission made by the learned majority leader, Mr. Speaker, what is clear is that he had a view for which he thought that we should not debate the matter. And so the bill should not get onto the order paper. Mr. Speaker, that is resistance.
He never said so.
For good reason.
He never said so.
Mr. Speaker, that is resistance.
Honorable member, will you withdraw?
Mr. Speaker, I'm saying that...
Kindly resume your seat. Resume your seat.
Mr. Speaker, if you insist, I'll withdraw.
Yes, resume your seat. Yes, it's now the turn of the majority side.
No, so
And I will consequently order that the statement that majority leader resisted the bill from getting onto the order paper is expunged from the record as if it does not exist. Yes, majority side.
Speaker, we are yielding to the honorable member for Dodo Jojo.
Yes. Honorable Niashikote, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Majority Chief Whip. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the report as laid by the Vice Chairman of the Committee on the Constitutional and Legal Affairs. Mr. Speaker, Parliament is a house of records, and therefore it is important to reiterate the fact that this bill was passed in the Parliament preceding my association with the Chamber, which was the 8th Parliament. It is also a fact that by the close of that Parliament, the bill has not been assented into law. Mr. Speaker, this bill has the hearts of Ghanaians following. This bill has been an eye-opener, very educative, and has gotten our traditional authorities, religious authorities, and Ghanaians at large shown utmost interest. Mr. Speaker, there have been concerns that as a country we need to take a stand. I must say that it is important that the report, in fairness, covered the exemptions that are most necessary due to biological reasons. For example, a case of intersex, where persons were born with hormonal complications or chromosomal complications, away from the XX and the XY that we, the lay people, are aware of, into what we call the XXY, the XOs, and what have you. Mr. Speaker, Ghana is a serious country, which today is enviably leading campaigns towards Pan-Africanism, and therefore it is important that we as a country take a stand towards our sovereignty and sanctity. Mr. Speaker, I must also add that this bill is not targeting any individual in person. And Mr. Speaker, if you permit, I would like to read a sentence from the 9th page of the report, which states that the communication therefore called on Parliament to withdraw the bill and refrain from adopting measures that criminalizes identity, consensual intimacy, expressions, associations, peaceful assembly, or the provision of health and education or social services to LGBTQ persons. Mr. Speaker, also on page 10, the report captures, and I quote, that the committee opined that the bill is intended to protect Ghanaian cultural values, family structures, and public morality, which falls within the recognized grounds for limitations under Article 19.3. Mr. Speaker, this is a bill that Ghanaians are looking up to, that the entire nation is watching, and so therefore it is my prayer that we adopt this bill and work on it from there. Mr. Speaker, I so submit. Thank you. Adopt the report and work on it. Mr. Speaker, I so submit. Thank you.
Honourable members, we have come to the conclusion of the debates on the bill under reference. I will therefore put a question. As many as are in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say no. Honourable members, the ayes have it. The motion is accordingly adopted.
An act to provide for human sexual rights and family values and related matters.
Honourable members, the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2025 is duly read for the second time. Yes, Honourable Roxanne Nelson, Eche Kwame Dapamoko, you may move the motion numbered 4.
Speaker, I move that notwithstanding the provision of Order 169 Rule 1 for outstanding orders, Speaker, which requires that when a bill has been read the second time, the bill shall pass through a consideration stage which shall not be taken until at least 2 sitting days have elapsed. The consideration stage of the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2025 may be taken today. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Honourable members, the procedural motion numbered 4 on the order paper addendum has been ably moved. Any seconder? Yes, Majority Leader.
It is my humble request that if you allow us to move the bill to the consideration stage today, and then we can adjourn, and then members can prepare for us to take it clause by clause at the next
Yes,
agenda.
that is what exactly we are doing. So I needed somebody to second the procedural motion.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Motion moved and seconded, and it is for the consideration of the House. This being a procedural motion.
Speaker, the secondment didn't record, so if you can take that again.
Yes, Mr. Anthony, you can take it again. Use the microphone. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear
Very
you
well.
now.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
You are interested.
Motion moved and seconded. It is for the consideration of the House. This being a procedural motion, the question is as many as are in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Now, the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2025 at consideration stage. Now, Leader, this is a point at which you make your submission.
Mr. Speaker, the committee has recommended some amendments numbering up to about, quite a lot, numbering up to about 31 amendments by the committee, and I also believe members may individually have their own proposed amendments. So, Mr. Speaker, that being the case, since the amendments have not been advertised for us to take one after the other, we can take an adjournment and then come back tomorrow, by which time the amendments would have been advertised.
Yes, Majority Leader, let's do it one after the other. Yes, available Leader, Deputy Whip, the application is that the committee has an amendment, which amendment is yet to be uploaded. And individual members of parliament may even want to advertise their proposed amendment. Therefore, we should defer the consideration of the bill for today.
I agree with the majority leader. I think it's well delivered. Yes.
Very well. Accordingly, the consideration
And this does not amount
of
to
the Human Sexual Rights and Family Value Bill 2025 for today is deferred.
You're still listening to 3FM 92.7.
Yes, Majority Leader.
And we have just been, in the House of Parliament listening to the debate between the minority and the majority side on whether or not the proper human sexual rights and family values bill, what many of you will know as the anti-LGBTQ bill, is gaining. It has got to be passed by the House again, and then eventually assented to by the President. That is, if it gets to the office of the President. And the debate has largely been on the back of the fact that the minority were insisting that it is not that the former president refused to sign it, but he had a few concerns which the House was asked to address. But the majority were referencing a letter that later came after the refusal of the former president to sign. A letter came from the executive secretary to the president, then Nana Asiedu-Dartey, who, amongst other things, asked the clerk to parliament to resist from sending any such letters or bills to the office of the president. So that's what the debate has largely been on, the minority trying to push the argument that it is not true that former president didn't sign it, and that this government, when they took over, should have done the needful, quote unquote, to at least expedite the passage and then the signing of the bill into law. But let's put all of that aside and engage the thoughts of Edem Senanu, co-chair Citizens Movement Against Corruption, and also one of the key proponents, well, not a proponent, but one of the individuals who's been advocating for the fact that we as a country need to take a stand on this LGBTQ bill. So he's the chair of the Advocates for Christ Ghana, one of the religious groups backing the bill. Mr. Senanu, a very good evening to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good evening.
Very good evening. To start with, we know that, many expressed disappointment in the fact that when this bill, after rigorous work, had gone through Parliament to the office of the President, it did not get the signature or the appendage of the then President. It is back in Parliament now. First of all, what do you make of the fact that there seemed to be some momentum gathering and still behind this bill, that we really need to get it passed, and that from today's hearing, Parliament has had a second reading of it and it has been adopted, and what we are told is that it's going to the consideration stage after that, then it means that they all now have to vote on it. But, I mean, talk to us about your thoughts now that it is back in Parliament and the debate is ongoing.
I think, first of all, we must salute the leadership of Parliament, and especially the Speaker, who has been consistent and emphatic that this is something that Ghana needs and that he was going to ensure that it got through. I think a lot of the fact that we've had traction is personally attributable to the posture that the current Speaker of Parliament has taken on this matter. And so we want to appreciate that. I think that the debate today where the minority was trying to suggest that our former president did not refuse, it's neither here nor there. We know for a fact that the man did not want to sign it. After all the work that had gone in, when on the 28th of February 2024, this thing had gone through, the last thing we were expecting was the president to do the turnaround he did, the 180. And so they should not attempt to think that we have forgotten our history. They failed during their tenure to, as it were, make sure that this bill was passed. We are delighted at the speed that it is taking at this point. We are hoping to pass it before the international forum that Parliament is hosting on, I think it's a forum on a continental forum on family and other rights. I think it's a good context within which that forum will allow us to see that Ghana actually has something that deals with these issues. And so those would be my initial thoughts.
Right. And to think of the other side of the debate where many are saying that why it looks as though this particular bill is dragging. There is this other side of the conversation, which is that because of the sensitive nature of it, we need to make sure we dot every I and cross every T. So it is okay for it to drag where every opinion, every thought is, captured so that we are sure that the bill is watertight. What do you stand on this debate?
Well, yes. When it comes to democratic procedures, it is always important to ensure that one errs on the side of caution and time, allow the voices to be heard, because that way you carry a majority along and ownership of the policy or the law is guaranteed. When you do a rash job and only a few people appreciate what went into it, then when it gets to execution, you're going to face, a pushback. So to the extent that we want to achieve participation and inclusion, ultimately ownership that allows Ghanaians to say this reflects what our ethos is and this is what we want done, I think it's good that it is taking the time it is. Just that we don't want it to take forever. And I'm hopeful that, yes, indeed, if over the next few weeks this can be resolved once and for all, that will be good. Because as you know, Parliament is going to rise again. Before they go on their holiday, it will be good that they have dispatched this particular law, and so we know that that space is dealt with.
And finally, in wrapping up our conversation, the concern that immediately this bill is passed, we really would have to do a lot of public education so we get everybody aligned, because there's a fear already that this bill in and of itself is just targeting people who may come out as either queer or members of the LGBT community. So there is that fear that they may come under attack by people who feel that now Ghana has passed the law against them, so then they are subject to any form of abuse. How do we navigate this so that rights are still respected, but then within the remits of the law?
On the contrary, the law is rather much more specific on the fact that no citizen has the right to physically injure or to verbally assault any such person. Any such identifications or assumptions that this is a person who is engaging in an activity that breaches the law needs to be reported to an officer of the state. So nobody has the right to take the law into their own hands, and there are sanctions against individuals or groups who attempt to do that. So on the contrary, what this law does is to make it clear and provide sanctions such that these persons are protected. The much more important thing is that we don't want a situation where certain practices that are anathema to our social cultural values begin to be promoted and, as it were, inculcated in our children and in our society. That is the best aspect of the law. What it does is to ensure that you can't just go propagating things you don't want propagated. But for the people, their protections under the law are guaranteed. And so this is an opportunity for any citizens listening to understand this is not a validation. This is not an opportunity. This is not giving you the key to attempt hurting persons who belong to these groups that we are trying to ensure that we keep away from our children.
Mr. Senano, thank you so much for your time this evening.
And thank you for having me.
Right, and Adam Senano is the co-chair Citizens Movement Against Corruption and also the chairman of the Advocates for Christ Ghana, one of the groups backing the bill, which is the Proper Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill being debated in Parliament. It is currently at the consideration stage, so it gives the indication that progress is being made regarding the debating and onward passage of that bill. Would update you when the House does take a final decision on it. Let's go on to some other stories. And the entire country was, gripped by videos and, pictures of the arrival of some 300 Ghanaians from South Africa who were fleeing the xenophobic attacks that have resurged or re-emerged in that country. And out of the over 800 that have registered to leave that country or to come to Ghana, the first batch of nearly 300 arrived safely. They've been given some promises regarding how the government would assist them to resettle. But The key issue we are going to be looking at regarding this issue is the momentum that is growing on social media, where some people are asking for the South African businesses and companies and individuals in this country to also receive similar treatment. Let's speak now to Kofi Bentil. He is the Vice President for Imani Africa. Mr. Bentil, a very good evening to you. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Right. I'm sure you've been following the debate, largely the debate about, the attacks in South Africa and the onward decision by the government of Ghana to bring home our compatriots. Now, people back home, and we've had a Nigerian legislator ask for the government to take stringent action against South African companies in Nigeria. But back here in Ghana, that conversation is also gathering some attention, especially on social media. What are your initial thoughts on this? That we also need, and we've seen the hashtag "Don't Renew Goldfields Lease," one of the giant gold mining companies from South Africa and Ghana. Where do you stand on this conversation? What are your initial thoughts, sir?
Right, thank you. So we need to be clear that nobody is asking for retaliation against any South African company or any South African people. It is my view that the people who are doing this in South Africa are really a bunch of illiterate hooligans. Saddest part is that their governments and security services are allowing them to do it. We are not saying anybody should attack anybody. What is happening with the Goldfields lease is that the lease has come up for renewal. Okay. It's just that there is a coincidence of issues. Okay. What's going on in South Africa has coincided with the renewal of the lease of Goldfields. And honestly, if you have somebody you are going into this kind of arrangement with, a lease, you are considering whether to really renew their lease, you are going to take every factor into cognizance. Okay? And presently, the relationship between us and South Africa is so bad that we don't think that we are happy doing business with Goldfields. Now, MTN does not have a lease to renew. MTN is very embedded in our economy. DSTV does not have a lease to renew. And so we are not asking that, they be driven out or whatever. I don't think we've gotten to that point. What we are simply saying is that there is an opportunity for us to just send a message. And the message is that we are not happy doing business with South African companies, especially because we have not heard them say anything, no statement. They have not expressed any kind of displeasure with what is happening in their country. We think that good corporate citizens must at least show that they are not happy with what is going on. Because clearly you can't go around doing business with people when your own people back home are driving them away as if they were bandits. So it is unfortunate for Goldfields that there is a coincidence here, and we can set an example and send a message to them with the lease. So I fully support not the renewal. I support that the renewal should not be renewed. The lease should not be renewed. All right? It's just to send a message. Next time something like that happens, they will feel compelled to do something about it. And whatever little they can do, that token is enough. But this loud silence is not good enough.
Right, and wouldn't that be killing an ant with a sledgehammer, where this is a private company, quote unquote, and yes, they are in Ghana. However, if I hear you right, you are saying that at least by now they should have come out publicly to either condemn it or at least say something about it. In your prior to that point you made, you also said that probably these are just a bunch of criminal elements in the larger South African community who are undertaking this. So why should a company which has operated in the country all these years, suffer for the acts of a few in South Africa?
Because they have not been a good corporate citizen. The lease is up for renewal. We have to consider everything in renewing it. It turns out that what is going on is happening in their country. It turns out that they have not lifted a finger, said a word. So it's a signal to other corporate citizens that you must be engaged with the country you are in, and also if there are things happening to the citizens of the country you are in the country you are from, you must have something to say about it, and at least show some interest. I mean, nothing stops them from offering to help. The Ghana government has gone to do an evacuation. Nothing stops Goldfield from offering to help. You know, the thing about good cooperation is about good behavior. Okay? And I'm simply saying that, we now have a situation where the people of Ghana are angry. And I have a feeling that if you ask any Ghanaians whether they want Goldfield to be working here, they're not going to stay here. Not because Goldfield is necessarily a bad company, but it's simply that, look, I have a choice to make, to keep you or to let you go. And given what is happening, I let you go. Like I said, it just happens that your lease is up. Okay, MTN doesn't have a lease that is up. And if MTN had a lease that was up, maybe the same thing will happen to them. So that is what corporate citizenship is about. What stops them from showing concern and lending a hand? Failure to do that is a failure of their business strategy. It's a narrow look at what their business is about. Okay, it's a failure of their corporate PR. All right, and there will be a consequence for it. And definitely, like I said, if the government is a representative of the people, I don't think the people of Ghana today are happy to be doing business with, South African companies that are seeking to do business with us. Those who are here already here, they are entrenched in the system. Okay? But trust me, if people had a choice, maybe they will also shift.
Right. Two final questions before you take leave of us. The next would be, so in this instance, if Goldfields does, for instance, the next few hours, probably after hearing you, decide to come out with a statement or organize a media engagement to share their frustration about the efforts or activities in South Africa, would that be still okay, or it's a tad too late?
It definitely will be better than nothing, but definitely also will be too late. It's clearly insincere, but I still think they should do something. Honestly, if I was advising them, even sometimes you have to admit that, hey, I made a mistake, So it will be too late. I think it will not assuage Ghanaian feelings about them. Like I said, unfortunately, their lease is up, and they are the ones who are, on the board now to be dealt with. So it will be too late. They've already shown that they are insensitive and they care what's happening. But it will be better than nothing. So I still like them to do, the needful.
The needful. And finally, what would this not paint a negative picture about foreign investment in the country? What kind of dent could an action by Ghana or the government's decision to either make the renewal process a bit more stringent paint for the global community or investors who probably would want to come into the country? Or you think it has no bearing on that at all?
Of course, there is some sort of bearing, but the question is whether it's a bad thing or not. It will give everybody an indication that the average Ghanaian person is sufficiently connected to their government, such that when you hurt them, you will hurt your own standing within the Ghanaian community. I don't think that's a bad message. It will give everybody the indication that Ghanaian governments, are sensitive to what their people are suffering, if even it happens outside the country. And so if you're a company from some country and we have issues with you in your country, you will be minded to do something about it. And ultimately, they will do things in their country to make sure that people from other countries are not oppressed within their country, because it's a global village. Okay, when you are sacking people from them, your country, and telling them to go to their country and go fix it, and then you come to their country trying to do business there, like some have said, well, you to leave, go to your country and go and do business in your country, and let us do our own business so we don't have to travel to your place. I mean, it's not a good thing that, migration and people traveling across borders to do work, should be affected. But under the circumstance, what goes around comes around. Okay, what's good for the Ghana is good for the goose. And if people are not going to be treated well in one country, the persons or companies from that country should not expect that we roll out a red carpet for them in this country. So it's a good message to send. Sometimes people disconnect some of these things from their existence. In Ghana, we are showing that all these things are connected. You can't maltreat Ghanaians and expect to be doing business in our country.
Thank you so much. So how's the campaign going? Is it that you're collecting signatures, or you're just trying to whip up public attention to draw government's focus on the fact that they need to do a bit more?
It's going really well. I was thinking of collecting signatures, but it has not been necessary. There is such an overwhelming support that I think the government itself has taken notice. So the campaign actually is going very, very well. I think the government is seeing and hearing, and I believe it will have some sort of effect. There's been a couple of discussions already about the collateral economic benefit of gold fields in Ghana, but we have to weigh that against many things. And the bottom line is that at the end of the day, gold fields has to show that it is not just here to mine our gold, make money, and go away and care less about what goes on with the rest of us. Yes, they have collateral economic benefits, but it is also very clear that Goldfields as a corporate citizen has not entrenched itself sufficiently within the Ghanaian economy. Okay, if they had, it would be more difficult to inject them. If today somebody wanted to do something like that with MTN, there would be a bigger problem because MTN is sufficiently entrenched in the economy, and what they do within the economy affects almost everybody. Okay, so you will not get the same kind of groundswell against a company like MTN, unlike Goldfields. It seems to me, looking at Goldfields as a company, that they have not done well in, making themselves relevant to average Ghanaians. I don't see why Goldfields is not listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange, for instance. In the past 30 years, you've been working here, you've made billions of dollars. And our investment terms have been particularly lenient, which have allowed you to repatriate funds. When they started, they had very few mines. So they have many mines funded from Ghana. I don't know why they are not listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. I think they can do more to entrench themselves more within the Ghanaian community and be a better corporate citizen. So I think the government has taken note. At the least, if anything is going to be done short of not renewing the lease terms must be renegotiated extremely seriously, okay, to make sure that Goldfields going forward will be better connected into the Ghanaian economy, so that their presence will have an effect on the average Ghanaian, and therefore their absence will also have the kind of effect that an MTN, for instance, will have. If that were so, I think they will be moving towards being a better corporate citizen, and it will make them sensitive to the plight of the average Ghanaian. I am unapologetically patriotic when it comes to those things, and if you touch a Ghanaian anywhere, I think I will rise up in defense of those people, even if it means, driving you out. And under the circumstance of Goldfield, I think we have a chance to send a message, and I hope the government sends it.
Right, and we all support that position you have just shared. Mr. Bentil, thank you for your time, and pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, too. Thanks.
Right. Kofi Bentil, Vice President Imani Africa, clearly unhappy about how the South Africans are treating fellow Africans, and he is part of a group that is asking government to pay particular attention to Goldfields Ghana Limited, who are expected to renew their license, and we are told that looks like government is going to be introducing stringent measures in ensuring that before that lease is renewed or their license is renewed, they go through proper rigorous process. So he is leading, one of the proponents leading that campaign. And still on the same subject matter though, we have been hearing some senior voices in South Africa express different sentiments about the action Ghana took, to the extent that we have heard the likes of Julius Malema, who in a viral video has said that he also thought that the action taken by the Ghanaian authorities was a bit premature, or at least it was, it looked like in jest. So that's what Julius Malema is saying. He is the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, one of the political parties in South Africa. But is that a fair position to share? Let's speak to Professor Mauko Yevuga, who is senior lecturer at GIMPA and also international relations analyst. Mr. Yevuga, Professor Yevuga, I should say, thank you for your time. Is it fair to say that Ghanaian authorities are overreacting, or the decision to bring back our own who are wearing harm's way is an overstretch of the issue, like Julius is saying?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I don't think Ghanaian authorities are overreacting. As a matter of fact, they have acted quicker and as expected. And I think what is happening is that many people, including Julius Malema, never expected Ghana to react as swiftly as they have done, which in my view is the first. I mean, we hardly will hear African country taking such a decisive action in defense of its citizens. We only see Europeans and other foreign countries doing that. But for the first time, we've seen an African country that has acted swiftly to protect the interests of its citizens. I think that is what is surprising to most South Africans. So I say that we acted rather quickly. It's neither here nor there. Ghana had to do what Ghana had to do to protect the interests of its citizens.
And finally, I'm sure you would also then expect that for him to think that way, then maybe it means he believes something can be done. So as a critical voice in South Africa, he probably should be leading a campaign against some of these xenophobic videos and attacks we are seeing. Is that a position you'd share?
Yes, that's what I share, that because he's been silent. How come that he never spoke the way he's speaking now when this thing started? He may have spoken, but as not forcefully. He's a member of parliament. He leads a political movement. So if he had spoken clearly when the thing started, maybe that would have helped to diffuse the tension a little bit. He waited until Ghana took an action for him to come out to condemn Ghana's action. Like I said, Ghana had to do what Ghana had to do. We cannot take for granted what is happening to our citizens and be waiting. I mean, there's more room for diplomacy to triumph. But I think what the Mahama government is commendable. I think that sends a very powerful signal. And it got South Africans talking and realizing that Ghana is not one of those countries where you can tag your citizens and nothing there will not be consequences. So I think we did the right thing. If the ball is back in the court of South Africa, how do they call to order all these faithless people or all these people that are chasing people into xenophobic attacks? They have to do the needful and call these people to order. And so the onus is on them to do that as a sovereign country also.
And sorry, I said finally, but maybe just to drop this in, you heard Kofi Bentel a while ago talk about the fact that Goldfields Ghana Limited, whose license is up for renewal, there is a hashtag that license should not be renewed, or at least the process should be more stringent. How do you react to this?
Well, I think it's a legitimate issue being raised. I think for a very long time we've been taken for granted. And I'm surprised that the same Ghanaians, most Ghanaians, you remember when the DSTV issue came up and Sam George was trying to push DSTV to do the right thing by Ghanaian customers, the same many Ghanaians were against that. But I think that this issue now have brought to the fore the need to recognize the interdependency in the current international system. And that will go to South Africans to also show that while they are chasing people from their country, they also have business interests across this continent. Therefore, they have to be very mindful of that. So for me, the campaign that Kofi Bentel and others are leading is legitimate. And it will bring the issue of business ethics and corporate accountability to the fore. Because like he rightly mentioned, we would have thought that South African companies operating in Ghana, Stanbic Bank, Goldfields, and MTN, they should have been speaking, clearly and defending the interests of migrants that are being chased. They never did that. And like Kofi Bentel rightly said, maybe this is the time for them to show some corporate responsibility. So for me, the campaign is in good order.
Prof, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your time.
No problem. Thanks.
Professor Mauko Yavuga is a senior lecturer at GIMPA, and then also an international relations consultant and analyst there. So clearly, many of you have also been sharing your thoughts and sentiments. You probably may not have heard what exactly it was that Julius Malema said, for which reason we are getting some reactions to it. But in case you haven't heard, maybe let's bring you that voice of Julius Malema, who has been saying that he thought that Ghana has overreacted, or Ghana is pushing the boundaries too much, and that there could be a better way to resolving this issue. This is Julius Malema's position that was shared earlier today.
Because Ghanaians are gone now, 300 of them. How many 300 of jobs were created after the Ghanaians have left? So it's just a myth, it's a lie, which they are using to further divide us, to perpetuate colonial divisions that were created in the past. And you say, no, I hate colonialism. I was a student in Feast Must Fall. We must decolonize education. We must decolonize this, must decolonize that. But the borders must remain. The borders are actually the most practical thing that was brought about by colonialism. And you can't say you are against colonialism, but you support the borders. It's never consistent like that. The Ghana.
And that's the voice of Julius Malema, the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters League in South Africa, a political party. And he is also condemning the xenophobic attacks undertaken by some of his nationals or his compatriots in South Africa against African nationals. He has condemned it time and again, but is also sharing a different opinion about the action taken by the Ghanaian government. He says that he believes that the action would rather make the situation worse, and that Ghana should have at least held on for some time for negotiations to take place so that we can deal with this particular issue diplomatically. Many of you have disagreed with him because of the attacks, which were palpable. We could see people with stretch marks, with beaten marks at their back, people very injured and hospitalized. Yesterday, I interviewed one man at the airport who says a bullet is still lodged in his spine as a result of an attack on him by some South Africans. So it's a very fluid issue. We'll update you subsequently when we get further updates on the next batch expected to arrive in the country on Sunday, we are told. You're listening to 3FM 92.7. That's it for Hotedition. Have a good evening.